With the recent allegations against Vincent Kennedy McMahon, me and Josh decided to look back at arguably Vince's craziest moment ever, when Vince dissed God and had a whole storyline with him. This feud started when Shawn interrupted Vince and told Vince to let go of the events that happened at Survivor Series 1997, which if you didn't know, that's the Montreal Screwjob. And Vince proceeded to tell Shawn, "I screwed Brett, don't make me screw you." At the Royal Rumble in 2006, Shane, who wasn't even in the match by the way, came out and eliminated Shawn from the Rumble. Vince informed Shawn that he would face Shane at Saturday night's main event. Yeah, we got all the details in this bitch. But in a no-holds-barred match, Vince interfered multiple times during the match. He would then tell Shane to put Shawn in the sharpshooter. And in screwjob fashion, similar to what happened at Survivor Series 1997, Vince would call for the bell and screw Shawn. Vince would then go on to face Shawn at WrestleMania 22, and Vince during this era would put his body on the line, bro, I'm telling you. But my thing is, how does Shawn go from Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21 to Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 22? That should make no sense. But this match had one of the most famous highlights ever in it, when Shawn climbed on a huge ladder, put Vince on the table with a trash can on his head, and hit him with his vintage elbow drop.
Shawn would go on to win the match. After the match, it would spawn another legendary moment when Vince would be carted off and would throw up a middle finger on the way out. Not gonna lie, that was a crazy ass moment. Bro's eyes were shut and he was throwing up a middle finger, I'm not gonna lie. The next night on Raw, Vince and Shane would go tell Shawn that his win at WrestleMania was an act of God. During the feud, Shawn would join the Kiss My Ass Club. I'm not gonna lie, joining the Kiss My Ass Club is kind of fucking crazy. To be brutally honest, Vince was going insane at this time. Vince said it was basically a handicap match at WrestleMania. So in Vince's head, which is pretty fucking crazy, he wanted to even the odds by making a 2v2 match at Backlash. Vince and Shane versus Shawn Michaels and God. The next week on Raw, Vince and Shane would go to a church. By the way, during this, Shane was terrified because Vince was being very out of pocket. Vince would go on to mock Triple H's cupping holy water and putting it into his mouth and spitting it out. I'm not gonna lie, Shane's look was priceless. After doing that, Vince would also say, "Hey Shano, they rolled out the red carpet for us." Vince would basically go on to go cut a promo on God, saying he had a better work ethic because apparently Vince doesn't rest on the seventh day, apparently. Vince would go on to name his 10 commandments. The commandments are hilarious, but if I say this, I feel like I'm gonna get gunned down. So if I were you guys, please go check out the segment. It's fucking hilarious.
He finished the segment by making a threat to Shawn before the match at Backlash. The next show, Vince then announced his own religion, McMahonism. Vince then says anyone that wrestled or bought a ticket will worship him. Vince then asked God for a sign. Then Shawn would eventually come out and hit Vince with a sweet chin music. After this, Umaga's manager offered his client service for McMahonism. Vince would then book Umaga in a match that ended up in a DQ versus Shawn Michaels. Vince then came out and told Umaga to go to the back so he could finish the job. Vince then tied Shawn up to the ropes. Vince would then go out to get a chair, but before Vince could enter the ring, God would strike and send a message to Vince. The power would go off, shit was crazy, bro. Vince got scared shitless and evacuated the premises and went backstage. He then probably thought, you know what, I'm Vince, I'm not scared of God. So Vince would come back out with a chair, but before he could get far, God would strike again with a wall of pyro. This was absolutely insane. Go check this out. I'm gonna put the link in the description.
The Raw before Backlash, there'll be a Shawn vs. Shane match. During the match, Vince would interfere, pulling Shawn out of the ring, and eventually push Shawn on the table, but Shane would hit Shawn with an elbow drop. Vince did an evil-ass rumbling rant, but it was on. But the match was on for Backlash. I'm really curious though, what were fans thinking during this whole feud? During Backlash, Vince then would specify that it was a tag team match. Vince then would pour out water on the ground, then walk on it. Yes, Vince McMahon walked on water. Then, right before the match, Vince would walk back to his locker room and find Candice backstage, and shit would kind of hit the fan. Candice then would tell Vince she needed a healing hand on her chest. Vince would then say, heal this woman's breast. I don't know, bro. Vince was going in, I'm not gonna lie. During this so-called healing process, Vince would say they would be moaning and yelling until Shane would interrupt the session, saying to get ready for this match. And let's be honest, Vince left the room and she was still moaning. Vince and Shane would mock Shawn and God. Vince would introduce God to the match, and I'm not even gonna lie, this might have been the funniest and wildest shit ever in WWE history.
A spotlight would then be shown coming down the ring. Vince then stops God and says, we're gonna do it WWE style, and tells God to get jiggy with it. Yes, Vince told God to get jiggy with it. Vince would then tell the ref to check God. The ref was like, but Vince, there's nobody there. Vince was not buying none of that. Vince would then slap the shit out of the ref, and apparently Vince saw God with his own 2 eyes. Vince would then make the match a no-holds-barred match. JR was going through it on commentary, I swear. But the match was insanely weird, and God ended up leaving Shawn mid-match. At the end of the match, the Spirit Squad would bail out the McMahons and get them to win. But of course, Vince would put himself over on God. After this, DX would get back together because of this feud, so there's that, I guess. But yeah, man, that was a wild one. It really blows me away that this actually happened on live TV. And it's not just like he said one thing or said it one time. They made this a whole feud. Yo, Josh, how you feel about this, bro?
If you want my honest opinion, I don't know how the fuck they got away with this. Vince called out fucking God, the hipster from heaven, and like, you know, the recent allegation, we're not gonna talk about all that, but like, I'm surprised he didn't get canceled sooner enough, I'm gonna be honest.
He did that shit on, bro. You know Vince did it. He's a wild piece of shit, but it's okay.
I'm gonna be honest, he beat God. He did.
He did beat God. We can't argue against the facts. It says in the WWE book that Vince McMahon defeated God. All right, but like, comment, subscribe. We out here, man.
Hey, Brez Productions, out.
Let's get down. Let's jiggy with it. Come on, God. Let's see what you got.
God to get jiggy with it.